Let me get comfortable. I want to get comfortable in my chair. Yeah. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Talking Throttle with me, Alex. You'll notice I've got my handy dandy mouse control. I've decided to invest myself in a microphone so y'all can hear me. Hi. Actually really excited about having one, so hopefully it sounds a little bit better. But unfortunately for you, you've got to listen to me moan for about 10 minutes before I get into the positive stuff, because I have had an emotional weekend when it comes to Formula One. I've been happy. I've been like towards the end of the weekend. But let me tell you, on that Friday and Saturday, Habla Louis has had me. Excuse me. Yeah, you've put me through my paces, mate. Because I don't. Let's get into it. Sprint weekend, which we get excited for. I covered this in the last podcast. Yes, we love a sprint. It's more racing. It's more opportunities to get points. Not against it, right? So on a sprint weekend, the weekend itself is set up a little bit different to a normal week. So you've got like practice, and then you go straight into sprint qualifying. And you've got sprint race Saturday morning, actual qualifying on the Saturday evening, and then you have the race at some point on the Sunday. Right, so I'm thinking, yeah, I'm getting full race action this weekend. Friday comes along, we get the practice. I didn't pay much mind to a practice because a practice is just a practice. Fine. Then it came sprint qualifying. Hablo Louis! So he didn't even make it into Q2. Right, so I'm watching this expecting you to get into Q3, at least top 10. So I've seen you get knocked out at 17th. Word, I shouted the F word. I say F word, like, you guys know me, I swear, like a potty mouth, but I'm not doing it on here, sir. No way, no man, not. I didn't watch the rest of qualifying because I thought to myself, how is it that Charles is up here and we're down here? What's going on? Came to Saturday, I seen the sprint race results. I seen that Max won. I'm not mad about that. It's not a McLaren driver, so it spices it up a bit. Then we get to the actual qualifying session. We go through Q1, eliminating the slowest 5 drivers. I'm seeing people and teams in there that you tend to see every single week. Wait a minute, I spot something. What's that? Abloli! Why are we down there again? Why are we in the bottom 5 again? We've just had the sprint qualifying and we've just had the sprint race, and you have the audacity to come back to me and qualifying and going to 5. You are driving a Ferrari. A Ferrari. You should. That shouldn't be a problem to you, my guy. Anyway, I look like I had no neck. You should be able to get out of that with no problem. Thank the Lord Jesus, he managed to get to P7. He puts in a lap, it at least takes him out of the bottom 5 and gets him into at least the top 10. 2 minutes later, FIA are like, yeah, we're gonna have to like kind of cancel that lap that Hamilton just did. Yeah, he exceeded track limit, so he's starting in 17th. What are we doing? Whatever. So it is what it is. I'm a positive person, despite me freaking out a little bit. So, fine. All right, no problem. And then Sunday happened. Sunday bloody well happened. Did Lewis Hamilton put in a drive for his life? This man drove from 17th and went all the way up to 7th. And when I say that, it was a masterclass. It was like watching him go boop, 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 overtaking people left, right and centre. One thing I will say, Ferrari did amazingly well this weekend, and it was their strategy. Because I'm not sure whose idea it was to pit Lewis when they did. But I said about 2 laps before they pitted Lewis, I said to myself, Lewis, you better pit. I literally said those words out loud because the race was delayed by an hour because of the rain. The rain had now stopped. All the cars were on the track, and as the laps were going on and on and on, the track itself is drying. So people no longer need the intimate tyres because the track's drying up. Everybody's going to go into the pits to change and to say that either the mediums or the hards, whichever one they want to do. First, Lewis pit now, because if you can get in and out of the pits before any other driver decides to pit, that gives you the advantage, because at some point every single driver is going to pit. Now spending at least 3 seconds in the pit lane, you're like still out on the track, so you can pick up positions from there. Lo and behold, that's exactly what happened. So Lewis pits first, and then the rest of the midfield then pit after him. Then everyone's like in pit. At one point he was in 7th, as I said. He was, I think, the greatest distance between him and Alex, I think at one point may have been 2-3 seconds, which is quite a lot, to be fair. And then it got as close as Lewis being within DRS and he could have overtaken him, but he had to then back out. It was either manage your tyres to finish the race so you don't have to pit again, or you destroy them and you have to pit, and then if you pit, you're losing positions anyway, so you kind of lost all the work that you've done. So it makes sense. But the up or down that he gave me in the past few days, he pulled it out of the bag and he saved it. It's in my good books now. Until we get to the Hungarian Grand Prix and I'm forced to suffer again at the hands of Ferrari. I'm not saying it's at the hands of Lewis. It's at the hands of Ferrari. But let's get into the actual Grand Prix though. So I've given my 2 pence on Lewis. Let me give my 2 pence on whatever happened. The podcast that I made last week, a lot of it was focused on what I expect to happen at Spa, but also paid attention to the McLaren boys. And I do want to get into McLaren boys first and foremost. Norris qualified in first and then Piastri qualified in second. And it'll likely be a McLaren 1-2 because they've got the fastest car. I think Oscar is the better driver out of the two. And literally, Piastri proved my point. On this occasion, Norris had out-qualified Piastri, and then they were able to start racing again. The green flag went. If I remember from memory, I think Oscar took Norris within the first 2 laps. And I remember watching it and literally texting my friend immediately, like, just give Piastri the championship yesterday. You and your teammate, and both of you are driving the exact same car. Ultimately, it's going to come down to who drives better, who's the better driver. And what I've noticed is that with Piastri, he's not just a defensive driver, but he's also brilliant on the attack as well. And I think that's what, for me, in the early stages, what told me that Piastri could win a championship was his confidence in defending against Max. Now, Max is probably a driver that you do not want to see in your windscreen at all, but not because of the car, but because of his driving ability. And I feel that way about Oscar Piastri now as well, because Oscar pretty much came up to Norris, and I know you're going to kill me, and I know Norris said he had issues with his battery. I get it. But just think it became mighty inconvenient that within the first couple, like the first 1-2 laps, Norris's feedback was, oh, something's wrong with the battery. But then there was no other issues throughout the rest of the race. So I'm like, just let's call it as it is. Piastri just got you on that one. And I know it sounds really harsh, and I know I come across as though I'm being really harsh on the McLaren boys, and I am. But even though I am a Lewis fan, I will happily sit here and point out exactly where Lewis has gone wrong, because that's what driving is. You need to point out the good bits and the bad bits. Piastri won this race. Now I'm trying to do quick maths here. No, hold on. Let me pause. I'm dead excited now because I have just done the maths with the McLaren boys, and it's actually a lot closer than I thought it would be. So after the British Grand Prix coming into this weekend, Oscar had 233 points, Lando Norris had 226, so there's only a 7-point difference. And this is why I say to you why I love sprint weekends so goddamn much, because they literally change the outcome, because you can get points, right? So you're changing the outcome of the driver standing. So this Grand Prix was just like a standard Grand Prix, and you could just win points. And if Lando Norris, who qualified first, kept his position, if he finished first, then that would have meant, as it stands at the moment, Oscar and Lando would have been joint on 251 points. If Oscar came into the weekend with 233 points and Lando came in with 226, if Lando maintained his position in first, he would have got 25 points, which results in him having 251 points. And then if Oscar Piastri got second, as he qualified second, then he would have resulted in getting 251 points. So they would have been joint. You know, they can't afford to make the mistakes that they're making. That's why I'm so hard on Norris, because if you don't get your mistakes in order, you are quite literally going to bottle a championship. And not only would you be bottling a championship for the first time, but you're doing it for the second time, because truth be told, he should have had his grubby little mitts on the championship last year, but McLaren decided otherwise. But that's a conversation for another day. So yeah, I mean, I've covered Lewis, I've covered the McLaren boys. I think, as I said, it's going to be race by race, it's going to be week by week, and I honestly think, looking at how closely it is, it's a bit bittersweet for Norris, because, you know, if this wasn't a sprint weekend, then you would have probably missed out on a few points. But again, we're talking about 1s or 2s. I think Oscar finished second in the sprint, managed to get 8 points, I think. Yes, Oscar managed to get 8 points, Norris managed to get 6. So we're talking about the difference between 1 and 2. But when you combine the Grand Prix result and the sprint result, yeah, but the gap's just gone from 7 to 16. So there's one other thing that I want to talk about, and that is the performance of Red Bull this weekend. Like, I know I've been really, really harsh on criticism and things like that when it comes to them losing Christian Horner. For any team or any organisation to lose a form of management that you've had for 20 years, like, that's gonna come with organisational change to some degree. And my worry coming into this weekend was, how are Red Bull going to appear to be stable? Are they going to be united as a team? Are they going to be dedicated in trying to still get, podiums, things like that? And lo and behold, they did brilliant. I mean, Max Verstappen won his first sprint. He hasn't won a race in a very long time. Yuki Tsunoda qualified the best qualifying session he has had throughout his entire time at Red Bull. Brilliant. Liam Lawson, I believe he scored points in the actual race. Brilliant result from him. And then finally, Isaac Hadjar, although he didn't finish the race, or he finished last in the race, he had a really good sprint, because I think in the sprint he finished, he scored 1 point. He scored 1 point. We'll take it. Okay. Like, he's not in the position or with a team really, unless he was with the main Red Bulls. But to get that point, a point is a point. You will take it. Even see their new team principal, like the way he is motivating the drivers, the way he wants, he's celebrating their successes. Even though they're small, he's still celebrating it. And I'm not saying that Christian didn't do that, because I don't know. But what I can see is that there is a change in team morale there. And with that being said, I don't imagine Max is going to want to go anywhere anyway. I think the talks, if there were talks with Mercedes, was because there was frustrations with Horner. Now Horner's gone, now everyone seems to be happy. So let's continue to see how Red Bull continue this season, because you can never count Max Verstappen out. And as much as I say, yeah, the McLaren boys, it's going to be really, really close, watch out for Max Verstappen. He is a black horse, that one. And I wouldn't be surprised if he came out of nowhere and all of a sudden the championship is not between 2 drivers, it's between 3. So don't put too much past Max Verstappen, because he can be a dangerous one if he needs to be. The other thing I definitely wanted to point out this weekend is, I think it's being confirmed. I haven't mentioned it in a podcast before because I wasn't sure if it was confirmed or not. But it looks like Valtteri Bottas is very close to signing with Cadillac Formula 1 for their new season. I don't think you guys understand how much I have missed seeing Valtteri on the track. I think it was really disappointing to see him. Obviously, I understand why he left Mercedes, but it was disappointing for him to go to Alfa Romeo and Alfa Romeo not give him the car that he deserved. We'll have to see how Cadillac perform next season. Sometimes teams come into Formula 1 and it is very different to anything else, but we'll kind of have to see how they perform. I'm very much looking forward to a new American team on the track, but we will have to see. Obviously, it's a double stacked weekend. We have the Hungarian Grand Prix coming this Sunday, which I am also looking forward to, because that is an actual race. God damn it. Thank you. I am sick and tired of the races that only last me 40 laps. What am I supposed to do with that? Huh? What? No, what am I supposed to do with that? Stop giving me the races that give me like 40 laps and it's like two pit stop strategy, if that. Like, no, I want to see them going to the pits like 3-4 times. Let's change it up a bit. I'm tired of it. Like the British Grand Prix, I think that was a one-stop strategy. The Belgian Grand Prix, again, one-stop strategy. No! Give me double the amount of laps, and I want to see this change up a little bit, because it's becoming really repetitive. But as I said, we're happy. We have got a 70-lap race coming up, whether it be Max, Oscar, Lando, Lewis, Charles, even George Russell. Like, it is going to come down to every race now, guys. So I think it's, let's see how everyone performs in each way. But that is my 2 pence in the Belgian Grand Prix. Just keep an eye out for the McLaren boys, see how they get on. Red Bull looking really positive. And then obviously I've had my rant about Ablo Louis. Likely see you in about another week's time for the Hungarian Grand Prix, but I'm really interested to hear how you think the Hungarian Grand Prix is going to go. Do we expect a McLaren 1-2 again, or could someone like Verstappen come along and just, steal championships off people? That's what he does. He does it like it's breathing. So I just want to recap this before we go. Oscar 266, Lando 250, Verstappen 185, George Russell 157, Charles Leclerc 139, Lewis Hamilton 109. So we'll have to see, but it's going to be the top two you need to pay attention to, but also don't count out the man who's got 185 points, because he could be dangerous. He's won championships by a long shot before, so don't count him out. Anyway, I really enjoyed catching up with you guys. It's been a great chat again. I will see you next week Tuesday again. I look forward to hearing your comments and hearing your feedback on this one. If you haven't already, please do subscribe, comment and like to my video, because if you don't know, we got that problem. We haven't really. I'm just gonna be like, okay. But yeah, it was great catching up with you guys, and I look forward to doing it again. Bye.